I was kneeling on the ground, hunched over with my head bowed, tugging at my wife's clothes. Please, I've given you all the money I've earned over the years. Now my mom needs money to save her life. Can you just give me some? But my wife kicked me over, her eyes cold and emotionless. Don't even think about taking a cent from me to save that old hag. She's 70 years old. She's lived long enough. The sooner she dies, the sooner she'll be reincarnated. As she spoke, she fiddled with her newly done $100 manicure and glanced at me disdainfully. Why don't you bark like a dog? I knelt on the ground, watching her mouth open and close, her words full of coldness. Fine. Vwiff, vwiff, vwiff. Seeing me so lacking in dignity, my wife burst out laughing. This was the mother who had once cared for her so attentively. How could she? How could she possibly? Beast, God knows how much I wanted to rush over and tear that bitch's mouth apart, but I couldn't. I could only endure it. My mother was still waiting for money to save her life. Honey, considering how I've helped your brother pay bride prices and find jobs all these years, and even bought 2 houses with my own money, can you help me this once? Save my mom's life, and I'll be your slave from now on. My wife looked down at me with her phoenix eyes, calmly taking a cigarette from beside her. Afraid she wouldn't agree, I carefully took out a lighter and lit it for her, looking at her full of hope. Tui, she spat a mouthful of yellow, foul-smelling phlegm in my face, and I didn't even dare wipe it off. John, stop making me sick with that talk of helping me. That money is what you owe me for marrying you. Otherwise, looking like the toad you are, how could I have married you? As she spoke, she didn't forget to press the burning cigarette, but into my hair. The doctor said there was only an hour left. If we couldn't pay the fee, the heart would go to someone else. No, I had to save my mother, save the only person in this world who was good to me. Although the cigarette but burned painfully, although I had a heart that wanted to kill her, I still put on the most bootlicking smile of my life. You're right. You're absolutely right. I'm just a dog, just a toad. Being able to marry a wife like you in this life is a blessing I earned from my previous life. So, can you give me back my money? The phone beside me rang. It was the hospital calling. I answered. The phone slipped from my hand, tears falling silently, a chill corroding my internal organs. My fist, already clenched tight, had drawn blood from my nails. My bloodshot eyes portended a storm. Without hesitation, I stood up and grabbed a nearby ashtray, smashing it over my wife's head. Sarah, let's get a divorce. Saying that, I left her covered in blood and walked away. Standing lost at an intersection, I watched the crowds coming and going, the endless flow of traffic. I saw couples flirting and bantering, young married couples walking hand in hand, elderly couples growing old together. But from now on, I would have no family left in this world. I felt in my pocket and found my entire savings from 10 years of work. A crisp $100 bill. I couldn't help but mock myself. Who was to blame? I could only blame myself for trusting my wife too much, giving her every penny I earned without reservation. I even selflessly contributed to her younger brother's wedding, house, car, and daily expenses. Just because I was an ordinary wage slave while my wife was a goddess. That she would marry down to me, I should be grateful. All these years, I had just been raising a dog that knew to bark before it died. But what good did that do? My mother was already dead, and I was powerless. I glanced at the lottery store by the road, rushed in, and used my pathetic entire savings to buy one lottery ticket multiplied by 50. That night, I was homeless and drank with my best friend Mike until dawn. At dawn, I took out my phone and unexpectedly discovered I had won the lottery, and it was... How much? I rubbed my eyes in disbelief. I had won $500 million. I was so happy I hugged Mike and spun around. After freshening up a bit, I set off to claim the prize. Unexpectedly, just as I arrived at the lottery center entrance. Screech. Bang. My soul floated out of my body. I was dead, killed by an out-of-control truck, my corpse too horrific to look at. With nowhere to go, my soul unconsciously floated back home. To the home I once shared with my wife, only to find her holding that bloody lottery ticket in her hand, her face full of greed. Tui, you wanted a divorce. To keep the $500 million all to yourself? Well, I'll make sure you have the money to buy, but not the life to spend it. My heart jolted in shock, hatred gushing forth. This car accident wasn't an accident, but premeditated. But how did she know I had won $500 million in just a short hour? And even plan a car accident? Who was behind this? Mike and I have been friends for over 20 years. He had urged me to divorce my wife countless times. How could it be him? I watched him excitedly planning how to spend the $500 million stained with my blood, feeling extremely annoyed. But I was just a soul. I couldn't even clench my fists. What could I do? I could only let anger and desolation fill my lonely soul. After watching for who knows how long, my wife received a phone call, her face full of coquettishness and coyness. I followed her as she floated to a hotel entrance, watching her fall into a man's arms and act coy. I wasn't resigned. I wanted to see clearly who that man was, but was mercilessly bounced back to my original spot, never able to get close. So I just floated there, watching them squander the $500 million they had stolen by trampling on my corpse, living it up in a world of luxury. But that man who was having an affair with my wife, I could never see his face clearly. Soon, it was time for the burial. I originally thought my soul would finally be able to rest in peace. But unexpectedly, my wife casually tossed my ashes along with my mother's into a dog bowl and flushed them down the drain. Ow! My knee hurts a bit. I unconsciously rubbed my knee, looked up, and saw it was the day I was kneeling on the ground begging my wife for money. I had been reborn? Great in this life. I would make them pay blood for blood. Just as I was lost in thought, an enormous face loomed before me. It was the face I had dreamed of tearing apart. I instinctively grabbed her throat. Hatred burst forth from my eyes. Cough, cough, honey, what are you doing? It's me, your beloved wife. Sarah choked out, begging for mercy. Honey, I've already paid your mom's medical bills. She's in surgery now. Hurry up and let go of me. We don't have time to get to the hospital. Sarah was being choked nearly to unconsciousness, her eyes red, but in her eyes I read fawning and cautiousness. The mastermind had not yet been found. I couldn't just kill her like this. It would be too easy for her. Adjusting my state, I released my grip on Sarah's throat and put on a pitiful expression. Oh, honey, I'm sorry. I just had a dream where you were cheating on me and even killed me. It really scared me. Hearing this, Sarah's body instantly tensed. She put on an extremely unnatural smile and half leaned against me. Don't be silly, you know I only have eyes for my husband. As she spoke, she tried to kiss me. I deftly avoided it. No, this was all wrong. Sarah never used to call me honey before. She would always just use my name, let alone try to kiss me proactively. She just said she had already paid for my mom's surgery. I couldn't help but be surprised. Was this not a rebirth? Just a dream before my soul dissipated? What came next was even more shocking. My wife brought out some freshly made soup from the kitchen. Honey, I made this soup for your mom. It'll be perfect for her to drink when she wakes up. I tried my best to hide my shock. Was this soup really not poisoned? Before I had figured everything out, I couldn't reveal my hand. So I continued to maintain the submissiveness of my previous life. Sure enough, when we passed a lottery store, my wife stopped the car. Honey, there's a lottery store right here. Why don't we try our luck and buy a ticket? So that was her plan. I sneered inwardly. It all made sense now. My wife had also been reborn. But wasn't she just living it up in luxury with her lover? How had she also been reborn? My mother's surgery went very smoothly. Looking at my mom felt like a lifetime ago, but thankfully, she was alive. There was still time for everything. According to the trajectory of my previous life, I should go drinking with Mike tonight, but this time I invited him to my home. Mike and I had been neighbors since childhood. He had always been everyone's golden boy, not only tall and handsome, but also the enviable civil servant. Although his wife wasn't pretty, her family background was top-notch. Mike would be here soon. My hand on the doorknob was already sweaty. My heart was somewhat excited, but even more nervous and afraid that he really was the one. At the dinner table, I kept my head down drinking, occasionally observing the two of them out of the corner of my eye. Sarah was actually rubbing Mike's leg under the table, while Mike had a look of enjoyment, responding with his foot. Their eyes were practically entangled in the air. Boom! It was as if countless bolts of lightning had struck my head. It really was Mike, my brother through thick and thin for 20 years, the brother who had countless times told me how bad my wife was and urged me to divorce her. It turned out that in my previous life, I really was a huge joke. So, heaven couldn't bear to watch and let me live again. After several rounds of drinks, I pretended to be drunk, collapsing onto the toilet. Seeing me drunk, this pair of adulterers became bolder. I had taken advantage of the time while my mom was in surgery to install hidden cameras at home. On the toilet, I watched the video feed. So it really is $500 million? After their intimate moment, the two cuddled together. As if that could be fake. That John really is lucky. First he married you, this beautiful wife, and now he's won $500 million. This was a Mike I had never seen before. When he spoke of me, his eyes were full of jealousy and gloom. He brushed back my wife's hair somewhat smugly. But so what if he's lucky? His beautiful wife is mine now, and the money will soon be mine too. In the end, he's still just a clown with nothing. Even through the video, I could feel the jealous gnashing of teeth when he spoke of me. Until today, I never knew that this was how he saw me in his heart, that he was so jealous of me. Just because of this, in my previous life, my wife and my best friend could kill me, and even desecrate my ashes, not giving me even a shred of dignity. Just because of jealousy? Because of money? How pathetic. I coldly watched the two of them. Since you are ruthless, don't blame me for being unjust. I heard footsteps coming towards me and quickly closed my phone, pretending to be asleep. The two rummaged through my pockets. I held my breath, not daring to move. Found it. Sarah triumphantly held up the lottery ticket. The two exchanged a glance, not forgetting to kick me over and hurl abuse at me. You toad. Did you really think I had eyes for you? After tomorrow, I'll be a billionaire. I laughed coldly in my heart. Fools, we'll see if you have that fate. That night, I sent the video of the two of them to Mike's wife. After seeing the video, Mike's wife immediately called up all her relatives and gave Sarah and Mike a savage beating. She also filed for divorce, demanding Mike leave with nothing. But with $500 million in hand, Mike didn't care. He quickly signed the papers, even taunting his ex-wife not to regret it and come crawling back to him. Mike's job was actually found through his wife's family connections. How could his father-in-law tolerate his daughter being humiliated like this? One phone call, and his boss announced an unpaid suspension for observation. But how could Mike still care about this job that only paid $7,000 or $8,000 a month? He immediately started cursing over the phone. Baldy, shorty, country bumpkin, whatever nasty insults he could think of, he used. I heard the boss was so angered he had to be rushed to the ER, and Mike was immediately fired. Mike didn't even ask for his salary or compensation, just swaggered away. He even boasted, "My level is something you peasants could never reach in your entire lives." I really wanted to see if he would still be so suave after learning the truth. Although the two had been beaten black and blue the night before, it still couldn't stop them from rushing to claim the prize early the next morning. While I followed behind them, in the prize claim hall, the staff took their ticket but couldn't scan the code no matter what. Upon checking, it turned out to be a fake lottery ticket. The two immediately jumped up, accusing the staff of swapping their ticket. Sarah even grabbed the staff member's hair, cursing loudly. In an instant, those fighting, those trying to break up the fight, all became entangled. It was quite a lively scene. With no choice, the staff had to call the police. Of course, appearing with the police was me. Seeing my appearance, the two immediately widened their eyes, frozen in place. But in an instant, Sarah reacted, rushing over to hug me. "Honey, it was all Mike who seduced me." I looked down at her, prying open her arms around me, sneering. "I saw how enthusiastically you were moaning last night." Hearing this, everyone present immediately understood. The looks towards the two became contemptuous and disgusted. Sarah's face instantly went from pale to bright red. I took out the lottery ticket from my pocket, waving it in front of them. "TSK. Too bad, you just don't have that luck." The prize claiming process went very smoothly. Mike stared at me the whole time, his eyes venomous, as if a fire was about to burst forth. Ding ding, the message of the prize money being deposited came through. I deliberately walked over in front of Mike, waving the deposit notification in front of his eyes. "A used cheap whore, if you like her I'll give her to you. But my level, you peasant could never reach in your entire life." Mike's face turned iron gray with anger. He wanted to come at me, but unfortunately was taken away in handcuffs by the police. Taken away at the same time was Sarah. As she was being led away, Sarah kept turning back to look at me viciously. "John, don't forget, we're husband and wife. Half of that $500 million is mine." Soon, the 15 days of detention arrived. But these 15 days of detention were enough for me to make preparations. After Mike got out, he wanted to go home, only to find his home was long gone. His wife had thrown all his things into the hallway. He wanted to go back to work, but after insulting his boss like that, how could they still want him? They even said outright that any company they knew would not hire Mike in the future. He wanted to stay at a hotel, but found all his bank cards had been frozen. Only then did he suddenly remember he had left with nothing in the divorce. He wanted to go back to his parents' home, but his parents were upright people who felt he had lost face for them by doing such things, and wouldn't even let him in the door. With nowhere to go, Mike could only latch on to Sarah. On Sarah's side, as soon as she entered the house, she saw me sitting formally. Without a shred of guilt, she plopped down on the sofa. "Divorce is fine, but give me half the money." Hearing this, I was momentarily stunned, barely holding back my laughter. Was divorce all I wanted? And she even had the gall to ask for half. That reborn brain of hers must not be working. I viciously threw a stack of photos, slapping them against her face. The photos were all of her and Mike in intimate situations, extremely graphic. I said coldly, "Sarah, don't you understand the law? Just with these photos, I can make sure you leave with nothing. And all that money I spent on you and your brother over the years, I have the right to get it all back." Sarah's hands holding the photos were shaking. I slowly walked up to her, grasping her chin. "Think carefully. If we divorce, you'll be nothing. Not only will you have nothing, but you'll be mocked by all those socialite friends of yours. You won't be able to afford those luxury bags and brand-name cosmetics anymore. Mike has no ability to support you now. Or do you want to rely on that ungrateful brother of yours? I'm sure your sister-in-law wouldn't be happy about that." I had to admit, every word struck Sarah's weak points, piercing straight to her heart. I grabbed a fistful of her long hair. Her eyes were full of terror, her body trembling uncontrollably. "You only have me now. Beg me nicely, and I can let you step on all those friends who used to secretly mock you. I can buy you limited edition bags, the most expensive cosmetics, the most luxurious cars. Even your sister-in-law will have to come fawn over you with a smile." Almost without hesitation, Sarah prostrated herself before me, hunching her back, lowering her head, hugging my legs. "Honey, please, I was wrong. I deserve this. I'm fickle. I didn't know it was good for me." I didn't speak, just looked at her leisurely, my index finger tapping lightly on the sofa armrest. Seeming to think of something, I took out a cigarette from my pocket and glanced at her. She quickly understood, tremblingly taking out a lighter from her pocket, carefully lighting it for me. I looked at her scornfully, casually pressing the burning cigarette but onto her wrist. I got bored watching. My eyes narrowed slightly as I took out some unfinished dog food from Rex's bowl. "Perhaps you could learn to be a dog? Eat all of this food, and everything from before will be forgiven and forgotten." Sarah looked up at me, her pupils dilating and lips trembling. Perhaps she was thinking of how in her previous life, she hadn't even enjoyed the $500 million for a few days before dying. "As long as I eat this, everything will be okay." The cautiousness in her tone made me laugh. With such great hatred, did she really think it could be that simple? This was just the beginning. Although I mocked her inwardly, I didn't show it on my face. I nodded lightly, my words firm, "Yes." Getting my affirmative answer, Sarah knelt on the ground barking like a dog, but looked at the dog bowl with great reluctance. Bit by bit she ate it, the smell of Rex's saliva assaulting her nose, making her want to vomit. Ugh! Quick as lightning, I stuffed a smelly sock into her mouth. Raising an eyebrow, my lips curling slightly. "If you throw up, my words won't count anymore." The rotten smell of the smelly sock mixed with vomit. Sarah forcibly swallowed it down, physiological tears uncontrollably flowing from the corners of her eyes. Finally, the last mouthful was painfully swallowed. I smiled, truly smiled from the bottom of my heart. "Sarah, for money, you really don't even act human anymore?" Patting her head, I said softly, "Good girl." For a period of time after that, I took Sarah to various high-end venues, living a life of luxury. Buying limited edition bags, luxury cars, mansions. These material things let her hold her head high among her friends, enjoying unprecedented adulation. But I never touched her again. Intoxicated in this world of sensual pleasures, she quickly forgot her previous humiliation. After all, You can't teach an old dog new tricks. This was all within my expectations. Everything was going according to plan. A high-profile lifestyle always tends to arouse people's covetousness. Sure enough, her younger brother and his wife came knocking. In my previous life, I had paid for almost all of her brother's expenses, even things like his bride price, finding a job, and even 2 houses. But when my mom was sick, he wouldn't give me even a cent. In this life, I would make him spit it all out with interest. Her brother had a rat-like face, giving people a sinister feeling when he smiled. At this moment, he was trying his hardest to make himself look kind, but it looked worse than if he were crying. Sis, I heard your husband struck it rich. Well, you see, my wife has her eye on a lakeside villa. It's not expensive, just 5 million or so. As he spoke, he took out a brochure and handed it to Sarah. His wife nodded vigorously beside him, her eyes looking at Sarah full of barely concealed envy. Sarah casually flipped through it for a couple of glances, about to speak, but I beat her to it. This house does look nice. 5 million isn't expensive, and it's in a good school district. The baby can use it for school. Hearing this, her brother immediately beamed with joy, fawningly coming closer. Brother-in-law, I told you, my sister marrying you was a blessing from her past life. So, can you transfer the money now? Really shameless, asking me to buy a $5 million house for you. Looking at the card he held out, I didn't reach out to take it, but instead turned to Sarah and said, Hey, honey, didn't you say you wouldn't care about your brother as long as he doesn't divorce his wife? Should I transfer the money or not? Hearing this, everyone's expressions changed. It was no secret that Sarah didn't get along with her sister-in-law. The two often tried to trip each other up behind the scenes, but it had never been brought out into the open. Now that I had broken this window, her sister-in-law immediately flared up. My sister-in-law was a fierce one, able to take on 10 people alone. Fighting Sarah, this little weakling, would be a piece of cake. Sarah's scalp was nearly torn off by her sister-in-law, who was still muttering, You shameless slut. Others might not know what you're really like, but I know clearly. Her sister-in-law's spit sprayed all over Sarah's face. Sarah didn't take it lying down, also using her hands to tear at her sister-in-law's mouth. Tui, a shrew like you. My brother marrying you was the family's misfortune. How dare you open your mouth asking for 5 million? Not good. It looked like Sarah was about to gain the upper hand. I rushed over and grabbed her. Don't hit my wife. Don't hit my wife. With me restraining Sarah's hands and feet, she was no match for her sister-in-law. Plus, I occasionally snuck in a kick or two during the chaos. Soon, Sarah was beaten black and blue, bleeding profusely. Tui, just a cheap whore, really thinks she's some kind of princess. Only a fool like my brother-in-law would want you. You wilted flower. Hearing this, I immediately became displeased, pointing at my sister-in-law. Sister-in-law, that's not what you said last night when you were smiling and trying to throw yourself at me. One sentence stirred up 1,000 waves. My sister-in-law's face instantly turned wax white, frozen awkwardly in place. Her brother had long since been boiling with rage. He directly picked up a nearby chair and smashed it over his wife's body. I immediately let go of my hold on Sarah. As soon as I released her, Sarah rushed over like a madwoman, clawing at her sister-in-law's face and beating her. You cheap slut. Even if I'm a wilted flower, I'm still 100 times better than you. You little tramp. Sis, I'm divorcing her today. You have to take care of me. You have to get your husband to buy me that $5 million house. Even at this point, her brother didn't forget about his $5 million house. These siblings really were birds of a feather. Meanwhile, the sister-in-law, lying on the ground at death's door, suddenly burst out laughing. Sarah, you really think your brother truly cares about you? A recording began playing. It was her brother's voice. Tui, that old woman is just my dad's illegitimate daughter. If it weren't for Dad and Mom dying early, she wouldn't even be allowed in the family door. It's only because she's stupid enough to take care of me. Now that they have $500 million, we'll find a way to kill him. Then you can seduce that idiot John, and all that money will be ours. Ha ha. Sarah looked at her brother in disbelief. This was the brother she had racked her brains to support, her only blood relative in this world. Now to learn that she was so worthless in her brother's heart, not even as good as a dog. How could she not be heartbroken? Her strength seemed to be instantly drained, collapsing to the ground. I raised an eyebrow slightly, my lips curling up in an almost imperceptible arc. Sarah, How does it feel to be betrayed by the person you trust and love most? Do you enjoy this feeling? Humph. This is only 1/10 of what I experienced in my previous life. In this life, I will make you experience all of my pain, bit by bit. Actually, Sarah was originally just her father's illegitimate daughter. But Sarah's parents died early, so her grandmother took Sarah in. From a young age, Sarah had been both mother and father to her brother Kevin, always naively believing Kevin was her closest relative in this world. Seeing Sarah reborn, my intuition told me this must have something to do with Kevin. I began investigating in secret, and sure enough, discovered some fishy business. In the previous life, Sarah's death was very likely orchestrated by Kevin, all for the purpose of legally inheriting all my assets. Unfortunately, that fool Sarah, even living a second life, never figured out how she really died. After being stunned for a long while, Sarah seemed to come back to her senses. She took out a thick stack of bills from the room. I looked at them. Each entry was money Kevin had taken from me over these many years. Roughly calculated, actually amounted to as much as $3 million. Yeah, so all those years I worked like an ox. In my previous life, I didn't even have money to save my mom's life. Well, all the money went into Kevin's pocket. I snapped my fingers, summoning a few bodyguards. After all, with my net worth, I had to keep some bodyguards. I gestured for them to make Kevin kneel before me. Little brother-in-law, over all these years, you unknowingly took nearly $3 million from me. I didn't give you this money willingly. So what do you think? Will you pay it back? Or should I have my bodyguards chop off one of your hands? My tone was nearly ice cold, devoid of any emotion. But Kevin still thought Sarah would help him. With tears in his eyes, he looked at Sarah. Sis, I don't have any money, and I don't want my hand chopped off. Help me. Beg your husband to let me go. Really shameless to the extreme. Sarah had long since been heartbroken by him. I was her meal ticket now. How could she still be willing to beg for this white-eyed wolf who wanted to kill her? She directly turned her head away, not even looking at him. I let out a cold laugh, my gaze sharp. Just based on that recording your wife played earlier, it's enough for you to drink a pot of tea. Now, either pay back the money or lose a hand. Pick one. Saying that, I gestured for the bodyguards to put his hand on the table, making as if to chop. How could Kevin withstand such a fright? He directly wet his pants. I'll pay it back. I'll pay it back. As he was leaving, Kevin's gaze toward Sarah was so dark it could drip water. He might as well have had "I want to kill you" written on his face. I looked at Kevin, raising an eyebrow. Very good. This was exactly the effect I wanted. Sarah, even more exciting things are waiting for you. Under my constant urging every day, Kevin quickly sold his house and car and borrowed money from everywhere. Scraping together $3 million, he paid me back. His wife, because they had no house or car left and owed a lot of money. Knowing I would never help Kevin again, she directly left a divorce agreement and ran off with their son. With the hard-earned money reclaimed, Sarah had also taken quite a blow. I was naturally happy. Counting the days, I took Sarah out to indulge in sensual pleasures. Unexpectedly, while buying bags, we ran into Mike, who hadn't shown his face in a long time. The current Mike no longer had that handsome and suave appearance from before. Not only was he unshaven, but his whole body gave off a foul odor. Mike stood at the store entrance, glaring viciously at Sarah and me, as if he wanted to eat us alive. It turned out that Sarah had grown accustomed to this life of luxury. Of course, that was my deliberate doing, and long since looked down on the penniless Mike who had nothing but his body. She only paid 3 months' rent for Mike when he got out of detention and never contacted him again. She even blocked all of Mike's contact methods. Those 3 months' rent were up today. It seems Mike had come to collect a debt. Seeing Mike, Sarah's eyes flashed with disgust. Covering her nose, she called to the sales assistant. Where did this beggar come from? He stinks. Not just anyone is fit to come in here. But this was a mall. Even if it was a luxury store, they had no right to drive customers away. The sales assistant's eyes looking at Mike were full of naked contempt. Mike was a face-saving person. After all, he used to be surrounded by adoring women wherever he went. How could he endure such humiliation? He lost his rationality on the spot. I was eagerly anticipating what earth-shattering, heaven-startling big thing he might do. But unfortunately, he disappointed me. He just rushed in and knelt before me. John, I was wrong before. I was a beast. I shouldn't have slept with your wife and stolen your lottery ticket. Forgive me. Spare my dog life. I haven't eaten in 3 days. If I can't pay the rent today, I'll have to sleep under a bridge. Seeing him so lacking in dignity, I curled my lip in a sneer. Well, if it isn't my good brother, Mike? What's wrong? Weren't you enjoying sleeping with my wife? Even secondhand goods don't want you now. Hearing this, Sarah became somewhat embarrassed, trying hard to stand further from Mike, eager to distance herself. The sales assistant listened somewhat confused, but understood one thing: that Sarah had cheated on me, and with my best friend at that. The look in her eyes towards Sarah went from previous fawning to now only contempt. Sarah couldn't stand it, pointing at Mike's nose and cursing loudly. You stinking beggar, are you trying to extort me? I just saw your handsome face and slept with you a couple times. Look at yourself now, neither human nor ghost. Even begging is too dirty for you. You dare come ask me for money? I wouldn't even give you dog shit. Mike looked at the slut who used to moan under him, now ridiculing him like this. Veins popping out, he shouted at Sarah. If it weren't for you, you bitch, how would I have become like this today? Watching this dog-eat-dog scene, I was quite entertained. I spoke up at the right moment. You were willing to be shit. She was willing to be a dog that would eat shit without regard for morals. You two really are a perfect match. Mike was a smart person. How could he not understand my meaning? Kneeling on the ground, he kept begging pitifully while slapping himself hard across the face again and again. I'm a beast. I deserve this. I'm just a dog that can't be tamed. My brother treated me with all his heart, but I coveted my brother's wife. I'm garbage. I should die. I watched Mike, once proud and spirited, now as lowly as a dog. In my mind, I was still replaying the scenes from my previous life. Him colluding with Sarah to run me over with a car, living it up in luxury. For people like this, even death was not enough for me to feel avenged. I lowered my head and whispered in his ear,